Hey, I'm CARBO brother. I'm Chris Nelson, president of CARBO. Really excited to introduce a new PF-9 trigger spring kit, also compatible with the P-32 and the P-3AT. A fantastic trigger pull improvement, a 40% trigger pull reduction from 5 3/4 pounds down to 3 1/2. Fantastic. Really excited about this one. Also, a 3/16 stainless steel guide rod replacement. A phenomenal improvement over the plastic guide rod. Really impressed with it. Can't wait to show you guys. Let's jump on over the tabletop, put these babies in. Before we get started, let's go ahead and check our firearms together, make sure they're clear. Go ahead and drop the magazine. Check the chamber, check the bolt face, check the magazine well. It's firearms clear. Let's see what kind of factory trigger pull we're starting with. 5 pounds, 11.6 ounces. Let's take one more to confirm. 5 pounds, 11.5 ounces. Parts and tools needed for this build: the PF-9, P-32, P-3AT trigger spring kit by MCARBO, compatible for all 3 pistols. The KEL-TEC PF-9 stainless steel guide rod, bench block, synthetic grease of PTFE, 1/8 inch punch, 3/32 inch punch, 1/16 inch punch, regular flathead tip screwdriver, hammer, flashlight. As always, guys, make sure we're an iPro. First thing we're going to do to get started is remove this takedown pin. What you're going to do is lock the slide. Now we're going to take our flat tip screwdriver, just get the corner of it, pop it right out. All right. Once it gets past that spring tension, it's real loose and it'll fall out as well. So we'll go ahead and set this aside. Now we'll go ahead and remove the slide. All right. You can see how it's all put together just like so. Very straightforward, very simple. Now if you're just doing the stainless steel guide rod, you're pretty much done at this point. But you can see how it comes out. There's 2 recoil springs in there. So you just want to make sure the small one obviously stays in the center. All right. So those 2 will be just like that. And we'll go ahead and replace our stainless steel guide rod now. Let's grab the MCARBO stainless steel guide rod and compare them side by side. It's not very much of a fair comparison. Alright, so now you can see you've got the MCARBO stainless steel guide rod for your PF-9. Fantastic improvement. You can just see that the factory guide rod here, it is plastic, prone to wear, you know, potentially just snapping in half as well. Not necessarily the best option, and they do snap just like that. So you can see how simple and easy that would break. So we want to eliminate any potential failure. You're only as strong as the weakest link, and this would definitely be a weak link. A fantastic improvement for your KEL-TEC PF-9. Really phenomenal. Stainless steel, 3/16 stainless steel, American made. Just beautiful craftsmanship that went into this, making a phenomenal part for lifelong improvement, durability, function, performance, you name it. Not to mention, there's going to be less drag. You know, these parts will function together in much better harmony. Well, now there's much more lubricity and function, and they're going to be in much more harmony rather than that drag on this plastic broken guide rod. You can just see how it was all mangled. It's just naturally prone to wear. It's going to hang, it's going to grab stuff. So we're trying to improve function and reliability and performance, thereby reducing that drag, that hang up. We want this thing to function flawlessly. We want that recoil to be just seamless. We don't want any drag or hesitation on that slide. We don't want to incur any sort of malfunction. So there we go. Much better performance, much better reliability, lifetime improvement. Might as well just go ahead and get it out of the way instead of just waiting for an accident or a problem to happen. You don't want it to break, and you don't want it to wear, you don't want it to cause malfunctions. This is a great way to prevent that. So I highly recommend the new stainless steel guide rod. You can see how easy that installation would be, and you'd be practically done at this point. And you just go ahead and insert it back in, and you put the firearm back together, and you'd be done. So they're really phenomenal. Looks great too. Can't beat that. All right, let's go ahead and continue with the rest of the installation. I'm going to go ahead and leave this set up just like that, since we don't need to mess with anything else here. Now we're going to get into the real part where it gets fun, into the frame. Now the disassembly of the pistol grip frame. What we're going to do first is go ahead and release this tension on the hammer spring. All right, you're going to go ahead and pull up on the hammer seat. All right, and you see how I did that little rotation there. I start in kind of with the blade up and down just like that, and then I rotate it as I'm pulling up, and I pull it forward, and I let it rest slowly. And you can see how it rides in that channel there. All right, so this is very important to understand and pay attention to. Makes life a lot easier. Rather than taking pliers and damaging this, or hooks and picks and scraping and scratching your firearm, you just do it very diligently, but very deliberately. And that's it. So we're trying to focus on how does it work, how does it function. Let's do it to where we're not going to create any sort of collateral damage, especially on these polymer frames. Real easy to damage. So now we're going to go ahead and take our punch, our 1/8 inch punch. We're going to tap out these 3 frame pins. Now these are plastic, so get it centered up on your bench block. We're going to start with the rear one first. Take your hammer. Just give it a good few taps. Now these pins, you know, they're very simple. They are plastic. You may have a little bit of shavings here and there. That's just natural. This is the way they are. If you guys are interested in something better, let us know. We've considered the idea and kicked it around a little bit. Maybe some steel pins, something like that. Something a little bit more longer lasting and a little more durable. Because if you do take this apart a couple times, you're going to see these pins just really deteriorate quickly. Alright. And these pins are universal, so no need to worry about keeping them separated. Alright, all 3 pins are out now. Now we're going to go ahead and remove the aluminum internal frame from the plastic external frame. Take your 1/8 inch punch, and we're going to go ahead and just set that punch inside of the aluminum frame, just like so. And we're going to pull up, all right? And while we're pulling up, we're going to put our fingers over top of a couple springs here on the linkage on either side, and you'll see that here in a second. So you start pulling up, all right? And you want them to stay partially located so they don't go flying away on you. All right, so you're just going to pinch it just like that. So we've got our slide stop here with our slide stop spring. This one will definitely fly away on you, so keep your thumb right there on that. And then you've got over here, you got your trigger bar and your trigger return spring. Now this is the spring that we're replacing, so just keep your finger right there, all right, on top of that trigger bar in that spring. Okay, and we're going to continue to pull up and out. That's normally hearing that hammer block back there just dropping. All right, we're continuing to pull up and out. Want to make sure that that actual hammer spring seat are completely cleared. Make sure it's in the center of the magazine like so. So we're being very mindful of any sort of resistance that we feel as we're disassembling. We're not just ripping it apart. All right. It's nice to be able to pull it out and see how it's all put together. That way it's not a big explosion or a mess. If it does happen like that, it's okay. You know, you've got a video to follow through, but in any ways, it's good to be able to pay attention and kind of methodically look at it and understand it as you disassemble it. So we'll go ahead and take the slide stop out. I still got my finger on that spring. That spring will fly away on you. Any of these parts you can get from KEL-TEC if you need to. All right, slide stop, put that aside. Now the spring, you'll notice here, this is important for reassembly. The long leg is at the top, short leg at the bottom. Remember that. All right, we'll go ahead and set that spring down. Now let's go ahead and look at the other side. Another important feature, take notice of the trigger bar, how it's actually locating, right? This tab locates underneath of the assembly like so. All right, and you see this trigger return spring actually locates into a little channel there on the actual trigger bar, which is really handy. I like that. Now we'll go ahead and pull up on the trigger bar. That spring will snap, a lot of tension on it. All right, we're going to set the trigger bar aside. Now we need to remove the trigger so we can get access to this trigger return spring. Now pay attention to this orientation and the way this leg is positioned here inside the linkage, and also pay attention, there's a pin inside of that trigger, all right, that goes through the loop on this trigger return spring. It needs to locate inside of there. So that's something we're going to confirm with this flashlight here during reassembly. Also nice to pay attention to how it's put together like so. So this is good things just to take notice of as we're disassembling. Take your 1/16 inch punch and we're going to tap right through here. There's a little hole there in the frame that'll allow you to access that pin on the trigger. Now it may take you a little bit more than that to get it out. All right, I already disassembled it earlier this morning, and what we're doing is creating a new trigger for this PF-9, and we're going to offer a trigger that will allow you to just use the hole that already exists there. There's some triggers out there that, you know, promote augering out this hole. It just leads to problems. If you screw up this frame, that's it. All right, so you can't get it from KEL-TEC. You're going to void your warranty. It's just going to create problems. No need to have that sort of headache. We've designed it to where it'll be much easier and more seamless of an installation. Now this is a great idea to go ahead and do some of these improvements now. Go ahead and reduce your trigger pull. Go ahead and put a more reliable stainless steel guide rod in there. Great improvements, and it's a good way to learn and understand your firearm in the process. Now we're going to go ahead and pull out this trigger return spring, just taking notice of the orientation, right? Real simple and easy, and the goal is to go ahead and drop it right in the same way. Now let's grab our PF-9, P-32, P-3AT trigger spring kit by MCARBO. It's compatible with all 3 KEL-TEC pistols. All right, let's compare these side by side here. All right, nice, beautifully. Oh wow, this thing is so light. All right. Highest quality spring steel, just a phenomenal part. I love the way we are able to create something a little bit better. You know, it's nice to be able to add these modifications to your firearm, you know, give you those subtle improvements, which really make a world of difference. All right, so much lighter. You can see the MCARBO spring is on top. This is the factory spring here. It's kind of bent. All right, here's the MCARBO spring. A lot more flex, a lot more movement. All right, look at that. You can see that arm just moving. This one's a little bit just more stiff. Really get a wider range of motion here with the MCARBO trigger return spring, which is on top here. Look at that. That's the factory spring there. It does what it does. You know, it needs to be stiff. Not good for everybody to have a super light trigger pull. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and insert our MCARBO trigger return spring. Now, most importantly, we want to make sure this eyelet here is captured by this pin on the trigger. So what we'll do is we're going to push it all the way in, all right? Making sure we have that same similar positioning as we had when we disassembled the factory spring, right? And we're going to go ahead and push our finger on it. Then we're going to take our 1/16 inch punch and drop it right in and push it, right? So we're kind of pushing it as far in as possible. We want to make sure that it's completely lined up. We don't want to have any issues, because when we start hammering this, we don't want it to bend the spring. All right, so we'll take our hammer and give it a few good taps, get it started, and pretty much drove it all the way home right there. Now we'll take our 1/8 inch punch and go ahead and just finish it. If you find yourself really hammering away, you need to check the alignment and make sure everything's good. Don't just keep hammering for the sake of hammering. That means something's not right. The alignment is off and you'll damage something. So we'll go ahead and just give it a nice couple taps. All right. We're good. That's it. So it's captured, it's seated. Now we could possibly give it one more little tap, try to get it flush. There we go. All right, that's much more like it. Okay, you're gonna have a little bit there, but that's good. That's right where you want to be, nice and captured. We don't want to break this plastic trigger. Like I said, we will have a trigger replacement here soon, but we don't have it yet. So I'd highly recommend just reusing this plastic trigger. It's no big deal. It'll work for now, but we're gonna have something really fantastic. I think you guys are gonna be thoroughly impressed with. You guys really asked for it and recommended something different, better, that you wouldn't have to destroy your internal frame. I get it. So we're excited to release that pretty soon. Now let's go ahead and put the rest of this back together. Now let's take our synthetic grease with PTFE. Go ahead and put some on your finger there. We're gonna put some in the channel where this trigger bar is gonna be. It's nice to improve that trigger pull. You want to be nice and smooth, clean, crisp. All right, so we want to eliminate as much friction as possible. So now we're going to take our trigger bar, we're going to go ahead and place it just like so. All right, we want that tab to be underneath. You see that? All right. Now we'll go ahead and we'll wind this trigger return spring back and get it to locate into that notch there on the trigger bar. All right. Now if you get a little extra of that synthetic grease, go ahead and coat the frame. It'll be real handy to have this thing just fall right into place like butter, because it is aluminum going into polymer. There will be a little bit of friction there. Now we're going to go ahead and take our slide stop and drop it right in. Okay, so that this pin right here locates in the hole in the slide stop there. That little tab locates in the bigger hole. Now we'll take our slide stop spring, drop it right into place. Remember, the shorter leg is on the bottom, the longer leg is on top. And you'll see how it locates right there. And you can press it, all right, and there it is. So that's how it should look. Now, keep a good grip on that. That spring will fly away on you right there, all right? If you got a little bit of synthetic grease left, go ahead and coat this side of the frame. Just make life a little bit easier upon installation. Plus, not to mention, the function will be noticeably different. It'll be much smoother. All All right, now we're gonna go ahead and install our aluminum internal frame back into the plastic external grip frame. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and drop that hammer seat in just like so. See, we're at that 90 degree. Now we're gonna rotate it. That helps just keep everything in line, making it a lot easier to put together. All right, kind of a slow, methodical process. Now once you've got that front portion of the frame captured, we're going to take our flathead screwdriver, pry up the back here just a little bit. All right, enough to push that hammer block forward. Now you'll see in there, there's that shiny tip of the hammer block right there. All right, we want to push that forward so that everything's in a proper alignment. If you don't do this, it will not function properly. So this is very important. Make sure you get it as forward as possible. You can also use your punch, all right? And then you go ahead and drop it right down into place, all right? Now what we're gonna do before we go any further is we wanna make sure everything functions properly. And it should move back and forth just like so, all right? See that hammer moving, that trigger bar moving? That's exactly what we want. We push that hammer block all the way forward, and you can see that hammer seat and everything's still wobbling down there. It's not set yet, that tension's not in there. We just wanna make sure the linkage is set accordingly. And man, this is beautiful. This is right where we want to be. So now we'll put the frame pins in, then we'll set the tension on that hammer. All right, so let's go ahead and start with the rear pin. Center pin. Forward pin. All right, perfect. Pins are all in. Now we've got our alignment captured right where we want it. Now we'll take our flathead. We'll go ahead and push up. Now you're pushing against that rail section, all right? So that's what's keeping it all centered and lined up nicely. So now we're gonna push up, okay? And you're gonna make sure that you get it over that rail, all right? Keep it lined up, snap right into place, just like that. That's right where we want it. All right, so go ahead and just leave the hammer locked back like so. We can put the slide on real easy and we're gonna do a function check. All right, now we just gotta put the slide back on the frame. Just wanna point out, here's your recoil guide rod right here and your recoil springs. There's two of them, remember that. Now that guide rod will locate right there in that cutout on the barrel, all right? And you'll press it through and then push it back and get it to locate right there in that cutout. All right, nice upgrade. Now we'll go ahead and slide our slide back on. Now you wanna make sure you've got that lug, that cutout on the barrel lined up appropriately, and it helps if you take your 3/32 inch punch, set it in just like so, and then rack the slide right back. All right, that keeps everything lined up. You can see how it wants to move forward and backward just like that. All right, drop our takedown pin into place. You see there's that little notch cutout. All right, that'll be facing the bottom, okay? There's that notch cutout right there. Now you have to press it into place, get that spring tension on it. That's why that longer leg of that slide stop spring, right, is at the top, so it'll capture this takedown pin. You'll hear that nice click. There we go, we're in business. Look at that, real nice, real easy. Now let's go ahead and do a quick little function check, rack the slide, go ahead and put in a small dowel, something that'll fit in the diameter of the actual barrel, and have the barrel pointing up like so, and go ahead and pull the trigger. It should launch that. There you go. All right, so everything's working internally, good to go. Let's go ahead and test this trigger pull. That felt amazing. Now let's see what kind of modified trigger pull we get. Woo, 3 pounds, 1.5 ounces. Let's take one more to confirm. 3 pounds, 6 ounces. Well, there you have it, guys. From 5 3/4 pounds down to 3.5 pounds. Fantastic trigger pull improvement. Really impressed with the way this feels. Night and day. Fantastic. Really excited to hear your feedback. Also, the stainless steel guide rod, a phenomenal improvement. You just can't beat it. Way different. Night and day over plastic. Really excited to hear your feedback on it. Thank you, MCARBO Brotherhood, for your ideas and your support. And as always, happy shooting.